Cecil Global and African Diaspora News Channel presents the Ghana Luxury Property Tour. It will be a 8-day tour coming to you starting October 1 through October 8, 2023. Now, you enjoy a 5-star stay at a hotel, the finest properties in Ghana. You connect with industry professionals. You will also visit cultural landmarks, have a meet and greet with the team, and so much more. Make sure that you go to the description box below and hit that link to sign up. A few days ago, I had, posted a mobile live stream. Wasn't a long one, about 3 minutes or so. Talking about that we need to start diving into the dark version of Black history, because we see all the great inventions, and of course we know all that, and Martin Luther King and all the others, we know that, but we really need to talk about what happened to Black people. We really need to go into the dark version of Black history. People don't go there, to the dark version. What I mean by the dark version of Black history, everything that really happened to us. As I was doing some research this morning about what happened to Black women in this country and how sick these people, these white supremacists were, what they did to Black women. Why these people is trying to stop Black history from being taught. Why they don't want nobody to know their dirty deeds. They don't want nobody to know. Because if you start looking into the things they have done to Black people, all you can do is look back at them and say, bro, you need to pay them their reparations a whole lot more. They don't want to hear that, because as reparations keep being spoken about more and more and more, and reparations should be spoken about, because we need reparations and deserve reparations completely. But in this particular story here that happened to Black women, I know I'm on this website, so I'm going to say things, definitely try to say it in a way where you get it. I can't give it to you as raw here. Now, if you're more interested in hearing some raw forms, then I can put that on AfricanDiasporaNews.org, where I don't have to censor myself. But here we have to do it in a way. So Black women seeking to assert the rights of citizenship and freedom after the emancipation face dangers based on their race and their gender, just as they had for generations while enslaved. Black women were deleted in the same hangings of trees and massacres that took their lives as the same as Black men. But they were also more likely to suffer the trauma of being violated. And you know what I mean by that. They say in May of 1870, 15 white supremacists violated a Black woman while other members of the white supremacist terror group hung her husband. Days later, in the same North Carolina community, another white supremacist demon mob violated a Black woman and afterwards stuck knives in various parts of this sister's body. Now, this is coming from the University of South Carolina and the Dangers After Reconstruction study. Let's think about this. They would go in packs to go violate Black women. In packs. Let's think of the first one. 15 of them. 15. While they out here deleting the husband, these people are so sick and nasty. As a man, I wouldn't even want to be going behind a bunch of men and they bodily fluids just if you was on some freaky crap. But you doing this, and this is what they done all the time. This is what they don't want to teach in your school. How they will run around here doing this to Black women and girls and boys. And also men too. They say news of these incidents was spread throughout the entire Black community, devastating Black women with the terror of their dual vulnerability. And when you read stories like this, it just amazes me how even a Black woman live with them today. I just don't see it. They say enslaved Black women had no legal means to resist or protect themselves from violation by white slave owners. No legal means. They can just do whatever they want to do. But this is what they say today. Well, we weren't the only people that enslaved people. It was happening all over the world. I could care less what happened all over the world. All we care about is the United States of America. That's the only thing we care about. That old cop out like everybody else doing it. So what's the big deal? Y'all were pedos. Y'all were demons. Y'all were evil, what you did to black people. And black folk need to continue to talk about everything that you have done to black people. The world should know what you've done. Now, it says, as early as the 1830s, black abolitionist Maria Stewart called for the law to recognize black women as full humans with rights to control their bodies and to grant or withhold consent. But reality lagged far behind. Said in Missouri in 1855, a young enslaved black woman named Celia was convicted of deletion and hung from a tree for deleting a white man. It said who had enslaved and repeatedly violated her. The court rejected her self-defense claim, concluding that enslaved black women had no right to resist white slave owners' advances. This is the history of America, ladies and gentlemen, that they had free reign. Do you know when you do these DNA tests and then you see when you have somewhere from 12 to some people up to 20% of devil blood? And yes, I say devil blood because that blood didn't get in by consensual relationships and marriage and things like that. That blood that got into us as black Americans and our DNA came from the violation of black women. That's where it came from. Now, thank God that the African genes are still stronger. And of course, there's more African genes there. But a lot of us have demon blood in us. And that's why I call it. And this is why some of you got the tendencies to act like them. Because that blood is in you, unfortunately. Not by choice. They say the white supremacists were determined to maintain the economic exploitation and political dominance they had enjoyed during slavery. And the white supremacists refused to relinquish their freedom to violate black women with impunity. It's even before the Civil War's end, Southern state legislators implemented laws providing different protections to white women and black women. The Georgia Code of 1861 specified a mandatory sentencing range for violating a white woman, but let courts decide whether and how to punish violations of black women. Black women, the white woman has never been your friend. She's still not your friend today. Some of you complaining like, oh, see, they say we together, but look how they go vote. They vote completely against us. They never been on your side. Because why didn't they say nothing back then? And even white women owned slaves too. Read the book, They Were Her Property. Read it. Let's say indifferent and complicit law enforcement officers undermine federal attempts to protect black women. In October 1866, a Freedmen's Bureau agent delivered arrest warrants for two white supremacists accused of beating a black woman named Sylvie Solian. And deleting her son. But the local Louisiana sheriff refused to arrest them. That summer in Louisiana, Bureau records reveal an even more devastating story. Now, Captain N.B. Blanton, of Sparta, reports Cuff Canara, Freedman, and Dan Docking, a white supremacist, had a quarrel because Docking had twice committed a violation on the freedman's wife. Now, they used to call us freedmen. We wasn't called black, we was called freedmen at that point, okay? So you get into a fight about this man violating this brother's wife. So Canara stated to the agent of the Bureau he was tracked by hounds for 10 miles and fired on by the white supremacists, Dan Docking, Norman Docking, and John Palmer. Shot in the left side of his back. And finally, he reached the agent having deleted 3 out of 4 dogs. Well, that brother was tough, wasn't he? Warrants issued for the arrest of the parties, but they have not been found. And from statement of people, does not think they'll be arrested. The people appearing to think the freedman had committed the greater crime by deleting the dogs than the man who shot him. Y'all, these people have never changed. Look at how they act today about a dog. Look at how they act today about a dog. They will cry, they will lose their mind about a dog. But then when something happened to you, they can care less. They shrug their shoulders about that. So the dogs are trying to harm this man. He's defending himself against the dog. And they're more concerned about the 3 dogs than these white supremacists that chase him down because he's trying to defend his wife that was violated by this white supremacist. This is American history, folks. This is what these Republicans don't want you to know. They don't want you to know this stuff. But let's continue. Scholar Estelle Friedman writes, he said that the white supremacists deepen the association of violation as an act committed by a black man against a white woman. Now, listen to this. And this is what they always done. They've always projected who they are on us. Black men wasn't riding around in packs of black men running around violating white women. They were not doing that. It was the white supremacists doing this to black women. Constantly doing this to black women. All the way up, even in the times of the civil rights movement. In that time period too. They have always been deviants, demons to black people. But when we tell these stories about what they have done, you know, like they try to tell you black people today, you're the racist. Oh, you're the real racist. Remember, they running around violating black women all day long, but they're going to say, well, violation is when a black man do it. But when they do it, it's no big deal. Now, during Reconstruction, they say and presume that black women either welcomed, forced violations with white supremacists or had no moral purity to defend. Now, this is the same thing they try to keep on black women today. And unfortunately, black women perpetuate that stereotype they try to keep on black women. The Megan Thee Stallions hurt black women's image. The Cardi B's hurt black women's image. All the things that's being done today, all the surgeries, it hurts. It keeps up the same thing from slavery. They say the same white supremacists who professed a fanatical concern for white women's purity and safety held tightly to the social and legal view of black women as promiscuous, lacking virtue, and without the right to refuse the lust of any white supremacist. They say this particular narrative of racial difference shielded white men from shame and consequence when they employed violation as yet another means of terrorizing black communities during Reconstruction. It's in 1868, after a white Virginia judge was accused of violating a black woman, he tried the case himself, jailed the woman overnight, and forced her husband to pay court fees. Y'all, oh boy. But this is that. But you see how great these people were? Oh, they so great people, weren't they? God, they was great people. They're so great they don't want you to learn the history of what they done to black folk. Black people all over the world. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be so honest with you. I couldn't have lived during that time. I couldn't have done it. Because the first chance I had to go back to Africa, I'd have did it, or at least escape to Mexico. Because in Mexico, they weren't doing that to you. I couldn't have stayed here. I couldn't have do it. No. Why did white people stay here to be enduring that? Why we want the first thing we could to get out of here? This is unreal. Now, say in June 1866, also in Virginia, a black woman named Peggy Rich reported that a white supremacist named James Smith had violated her. He attacked Miss Rich again after he was released on bail and was later acquitted of both charges. This is the history of the white supremacists. In September 1866, a black woman named Rhoda Ann Childs reported to the Freedmen's Bureau that 8 white supremacists had come to her Georgia home demanding to see her husband. When they learned Mrs. Childs was alone, the men kidnapped, beat, and violated her. It said Mrs. Childs' affidavit describes that one of the men ran his pistol into me and said he had a hell of a mind to pull the trigger, and several of the men restrained her while one applied the strap to her private parts until fatigued into stopping, and I was more dead than alive. Said another of the men, a former Confederate soldier, violated Mrs. Childs. The mob robbed her home, and beat her daughters. This is, man, I'll tell you, this is some sick stuff, man. This is some sick stuff. You put this stuff in a movie, you be like, man, what am I watching? They say in 1871, Harriet Simrill testified before a joint congressional committee that 3 white supremacists had violated her in Columbia, South Carolina. And after her husband refused to vote for the white supremacist ticket. In a courageous statement, they say the federal lawmakers, Ms. Simrill, they say named her attackers and described their brutality. This is what she said they did to her. Listen, she said they're spitting in my face and throwing dirt in my eyes. And after that, they dragged me out into the big road and they violated her out there. They say the details of the attack were deemed too obscene for inclusion in the committee's published volumes. And say, but the defiant courage as Ms. Simrill and so many other black women exhibited in reporting such attacks standing as enduring evidence of the violating terror. They say black women, they say suffered, they say during Reconstruction, and their determination to survive. Black women endured a lot. Let me tell you something, no other woman in America has endured that. The white woman haven't endured it. The Asians haven't endured it. Any other immigrants that come into this country, when you speak on black people, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know our history. You don't know what we had to do to even survive as a people. Even black women, even being sane today, it's a testament what they had to go through. But the Republican governors don't want you to know what we talked about here today. And I said this in the most cleanest language I could. I didn't use no curse words. Didn't use no anything like that. I will say this because I know it probably still gonna get dinged anyway. Support this particular video. You can support this video, of course, subscribing. Leave a super chat. You can do a super thanks to support because, like I said, I'm putting this out here so you can know the history, so you can know, because these people do not want the history out here whatsoever. This is the black history that we all need to know. What happened to our people here in the United States of America, people throughout the world as well. You need to know. Because when we talk about reparations, we talk about what we went through, these people are trying to play a game. They're not going to promote this sort of thing. So let me know what y'all think about, what happened here. And it's just one of many stories, one of many things that's happened to black people. And we're going to start going down this road of telling what really happened to the community. These people have this one. When I tell you, even to this day, they're doing the same things. Nothing has changed. These people have no moral compass to be leading anything. I've said that. Because if they had a moral compass, they'll pay reparations. They'll give land back. They'll do all the things that they can to make things right. And they're not trying to do so.